Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I rise to ask question number 198 of 2015 under my name in today's order paper. My question is directed to the Honourable Attorney-General. Can the Honourable Attorney-General and Minister for Finance, Public Enterprise, Public Service and Communication explain what is the progress of the comprehensive review by the World Bank to restructure the civil service? Thank you.
Thank you, and I call upon the Attorney General, Minister for Finance, Public Enterprises, Public Service and Communications.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I thank the Honourable Member for this question, given the fact that he is also a former civil servant, and thank him for his interest. Honourable Deputy Speaker, as you are aware, that we had announced last year and also made a budgetary allocation of $500,000 to support civil service reforms in Fiji, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Section 123 of the Fijian Constitution, Honourable Deputy Speaker, sets out a number of clear guidelines regarding the values and principles that the Fijian civil service should have. I must clarify, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that the civil service reform is not driven by World Bank itself, but indeed they are partnering with us in respect of some of the reforms we want to bring about in the Fijian civil service. The government recognizes that an effective and accountable public sector is essential to achieving a prosperous and stable Fiji. In this context, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the reform of the civil service is government's highest priority. In reaching out to the World Bank, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have set up a structure which is called the Civil Service Reform Management Unit, or CSRMU. It has advertised positions within the CSRMU, which was advertised, and the director of the CSRMU is Ms. Makreta Conrote, who was seconded from the Ministry of Finance, and an officer from PSC, and the recruitment of 2 other research officers. The way it works with the World Bank, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is that they have already sent down a number of the staff to Fiji. They've met up with some of the key ministries, for example, agriculture, education, infrastructure, and some of the other ministries, and indeed they have identified some of the problems. Now, some of the specific issues that have been identified, and it is very critical, Honourable Deputy Speaker, to identify the problem areas first, because civil service reform simply cannot be done overnight. It must be done in a very focused and concerted manner. We need to have the confidence of all the civil servants, and indeed, more so, we need to have the confidence of the Fijian people as a whole. If I could highlight, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the specific issues that have been identified so far. Firstly, the numbers and skill mix of civil servants are inappropriate. Processes are bureaucratic and out of date, causing frustrations for citizens and businesses. Ministries have overlapping responsibilities, and there is considerable scope for reducing waste and inefficiency. A previous history of recruitment and promotions were not always based upon the merit principle. The inability of the public service overall to attract and retain, as we talked about retention, the best talent, and those who are in civil service are not provided with adequate incentives to perform to the best of their capability. These, for example, Honourable Deputy Speaker, include issues. So, for example, the salaries are always pegged at the lower end of the scale, and people don't have the ability to move up and down the scale. In order for them to get a pay rise in many instances or move up to the next level, they would look for a promotion. And indeed, for example, what used to happen, indeed, without the problem being fixed up, can happen, is if I, for example, am a senior principal administrative officer and I want to move up to the director level, I may be, for example, in Ministry of, say, Trade. And if I feel that there is no way to move up the ladder, I will look for a director position in one of the other ministries. And I may move to a completely different ministry where I may not have any knowledge whatsoever. But because I have been in the civil service for a long period of time, I actually may get promoted to that position. So all that knowledge base that I have gained whilst working in Ministry of Trade is lost, so the civil service overall loses out, but you get a person in a position that really should not be there. Career management, especially for professional and technical staff, is problematic, with growth and promotion avenues available only in management cadres, and we need to nurture the people at the lower end of the scale. A need for training and upgrading staff skills and competencies. These are some of the issues that were identified. Some other issues that have been identified, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is that the team identified there are major weaknesses at the interface between the public and the civil service, with the civil service often inaccessible, unresponsive and bureaucratic. These problems are pronounced in relation to particular certification and regulatory processes. Central agencies do not have the sufficient tools and capacity to monitor and motivate delivery of high priority projects and programs. Honourable Deputy Speaker, in order to get these reforms in place, we have also reached out through the World Bank's efforts and assistance to a number of our development partners, and they have, in fact, Honourable Deputy Speaker, set a trust fund in which our donor countries can contribute funds into that, and then whenever you hire any consultants or any work, specifically documentation needs to be rolled out, that funding comes from there. And I'm happy to announce that the Australian government has already committed $3 million over the next 3 years as technical assistance. So if, for example, a specific technical assistance is required to, for example, look at agriculture, how many people does the Ministry of Agriculture require? The Minister obviously has input, how many outfield or research officers he requires, what is the capacity that's required, the assessment of that, the funding for all of that will come through this particular trust fund that has been set aside. We are at the moment talking to some other donors who are actually interested. In fact, this morning, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we had a meeting with the President of the Asian Development Bank, who is in country, and will be meeting with the Honourable Prime Minister this morning at 11 a.m., where they have also said that they are very keen on the civil service reforms that we are carrying out. So the progress, Honourable Deputy Speaker, has been in relation to the identification and the assessment of those issues. We've got a number of other people coming in, and we hope to carry out some specific reforms. By end of next month, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we will be rolling out a centralized policy guideline in respect to merit-based recruitment and selection. As you know, Honourable Deputy Speaker, under the Constitution now, the appointments are carried out through the permanent secretaries with the concurrence of the ministers. But in order to ensure that there is across the board, none of the permanent secretaries play any funny business, there has to be a criteria for selection and recruitment that must be across the board and transparent. With open competition, transparency will be sending out specific standard operating procedures. Fair and consistent disciplinary procedures all need to be across the board. Economies of scale and ongoing provision of core common training activities. For example, we don't want simply the ministries to go off and do their own training. Across the board, all the ministries, for example, would require training in Word, in computers. So we can't just say one ministry going off and doing their own thing. It can be all centralized to be able to gain the efficiencies in the training programs. So that will be rolled out, Honourable Deputy Speaker, by September. Personally, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we want this to be fast-tracked. Pace needs to increase, not fast-track, but pace needs to increase. And we've already had discussions with the World Bank, and we hope to get a lot more traction in the next few months. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Supplementary question, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
The floor is yours, Honourable.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to acknowledge the comments the running comments by the Honourable Minister, which I find quite irrelevant because the question only focused on the actual progress. And may I refresh our memories in this Turning Promises into Deeds booklet, which actually said, and I quote, a comprehensive review will be conducted by the World Bank in 2015. In 2015, and that's what it's saying in this budget. And also in my budget response address, I had requested the Honourable Minister for a copy of the plan, of the civil service reform plan, if it had been done. So again, I'm asking now, is the civil service reform plan in place? And if it is in place, can I again request for a copy? No. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I think the Honourable Member is not listening to what I said. In fact, the The consultations, Honourable Deputy Speaker, started last year when the World Bank was already on the ground before the end of the year. So the work has already started. The Honourable member, of course, is a former civil servant also. And perhaps, Honourable Speaker, she does not realize that when you do carry out reforms, you simply can't go in with all guns blazing. You need to identify the problems, and that's all part of the reform. You need to identify where the loopholes, where the gaps. We have large ministries. We have ministries like education and agriculture that have very high-level responsibilities. They have huge budgets. So we need to be able to identify the problem. They are systemic problems. They have been languishing in the system since independence days. We have, for example, Honourable Deputy Speaker, when we were Ministry of Justice, when I went to Ministry of Justice in 2007, we had one gentleman whose responsibility, his job description was to look after all the vehicles in that particular ministry. And the ministry had one vehicle. That was his job. So,
Point of order.
Standing Order 60, it says that the response must be relevant. I asked for a civil service reform plan, whether it's done or not. If it's available, can I have a copy? Simple. Just a yes or no, and when can I get a copy? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Attorney-General and Minister for Finance.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, can I get a clarification from the Honourable Member? When she says plan, does she mean a written down plan?
Written or oral?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, yes, being the Minister for the Civil Service, yes, it's a plan, a document, a plan document about the civil service reform that will tell us how you're going to do it, where you're going to get the money from, who is going to do it, and a time frame. That's all I'm asking for, so that we know how the civil service reform will roll out. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, in order for me to answer the question, I need to understand the mind of the Honourable Member. And what is in her mind, I cannot ascertain, because when you talk about a plan, you don't think of a plan in oblivion, in the vacuum. You need to, Madam Honourable...
Point of order.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, can I just request that the Honourable Minister, being the gentleman he is, just say yes, the plan is there, or it's not there, and if it's there, can I have a copy? Thank you.
I will take a cue from the Honourable Member sitting next to the Honourable Member, and he says oral or written, there is an oral plan. And I can verbally tell you what the plan is.
Thank you. Supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Who is also civil servant?
The exercise was budgeted in this year's budget. And by that to happen in this year, then it should have had a plan already done. This is August already. Next week is September. So is it going to be implemented this year? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Attorney-General and Minister.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the $500,000, Honourable Deputy Speaker, obviously is part of the restructure of the civil service. I just highlighted in my answer that people have been recruited for the CSRMU unit. So obviously they need to be paid. They get paid from the $500,000 to carry out the very exercise that I said that currently is being carried out. You need to be able to do that. In order to ascertain what are the deficiencies in the respective ministries, you need people to actually go there and find out what the problems are. You need to talk to the respective ministers to find out what the problems are. And then you deal with the respective ministries. As I've also highlighted, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we already are going to roll out the planned standing operating procedures in terms of recruitment, disciplinary processes that'll apply across the board. That obviously costs money too. So the budget is being utilized from that perspective. We also have, Honourable Deputy Speaker, with the World Bank, we have the concept note regarding technical assistance for the Fijian civil service. That's all in place.
Thank you.